Welcome to Central Bark, a podcast from Guide Dogs for the Blind. I'm Teresa Stern, and I'm your host. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Central Bark, and happy summer. Summer is always my favorite time of the year. And this episode is really dedicated to having safe summers with our four-legged friends. Today, my guest is Dr. Rebecca Satterwhite, and she is our staff veterinarian at our Oregon campus of Guide Dogs for the Blind. And she's going to talk to us a little bit today about how we can keep our dogs happy and healthy during the dog days of summer. So, welcome, Rebecca, Dr. Satterwhite. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm so happy to be here. I'm a big fan of your podcast.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. So tell me a little bit about your journey to Guide Dogs for the Blind. We were just commenting before the show that we have not met yet in person. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about your background and how you ended up here, how we got so lucky to have you here on our team.
Oh, well, thank you for the introduction. It has been my dream to work as a veterinarian for guide dogs since I was at veterinary school at UC Davis, so not far from the San Rafael campus. I also grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in San Mateo. And so I was exposed to GDB from an early age and saw puppies in training vests and kind of knew about the training program and things. And after vet school, I moved to Portland and for a veterinary internship and learned that there was a training campus in Oregon as well. So was very excited about that. I worked in general practice as a small animal veterinarian for dogs and cats for about 6 years before joining the GDB team.
Okay.
And I just have a very special adoration for retrievers, specifically golden fluffy varieties.
Oh, yes.
And so that's kind of what initially drew me to guide dogs. And I'm so happy to be a part of the team.
Awesome. Well, we're really, really lucky to have you. And you know what? Sort of a cool thing that you were, grew up here, saw the dogs, and then moved to Portland. And it was like it was meant to be that you would, end up there. Yeah. That's so cool. I love it.
That's how I feel too.
Yes. That's fabulous. So, as a veterinary professional, give us, your thoughts sort of on summertime, what maybe some of the hazards or dangers might be for our dogs during those warmer months, and maybe some things that we sometimes overlook or don't think about.
Well, like you, I think summer is very fun, all the sunshine and vitamin D and adventure. But I think it's great to think about the things that could be not so fun and to try to prepare for them early. So I'm glad we're chatting about this today. I think the most common thing that people think about, and I definitely worry about as a veterinarian, is overheating with dogs. Dogs can't sweat like people do. They don't sweat like people do. And so they're at particular risk of heat stress. And we have to think a little bit more about how we can maintain their temperatures. They do other cool things other than sweating, like they can pant and lose heat through evaporation, which is a very cool process. And their coats are insulators, so their fur can actually keep them cool. And that's one of the reasons why we never want to shave some of these double coated breeds that we have, like labs and goldens, because it actually can keep them cool.
Wow, that's really interesting because I think we think, oh my gosh, all that hair, or especially if you have a black lab or a black golden cross dog, you think, oh my gosh, there is this hair in the way. So that's so interesting to know that not only keeps them safe in the wintertime, but also protects them from the sun.
Absolutely. I think that's something a lot of us forget about, that their fur is to thermoregulate in both directions.
Wow. Okay. Good to know.
And also the difference too is that they don't wear shoes like people do when we're walking. And while they have tough paws and they're designed to walk on them, asphalt can get really hot and concrete. And so that's part of preparing for hot days of summer, is thinking about how we can protect their paws as well as just their overall body temperature.
Right. And so for those particular issues, How can we sort of go about this in a smart way so that we can still get them out if it's going to be a warm day, but do it in a way that's safe?
I think that planning is key. I
Hmm.
think that being aware of what your plans are for the day, checking the forecast for the day. If it's going to be over 80 degrees, particularly over 85 degrees, that's when we start to think about a plan for
Okay.
cooling.
Okay.
So, the first thing I think about is to choose a time of day, if you can, where your outings are in the coolest part of the day. So,
Right.
in the morning or in the
Hmm.
later afternoon.
That makes sense.
And if you are, like I mentioned before, protecting their paws, if we do have to go out in a time of day where we're concerned that it might be getting a little bit too warm,
Hmm.
we can put our hand on the asphalt or the concrete. So the general rule is that if you hold your hand to the asphalt or concrete for 5 seconds.
Hmm.
And if it's not comfortable for your own hand, then it's probably not comfortable for the dog. And
Mm.
that's when we need to start thinking about putting booties on the dog as a protective mechanism for
Okay.
their
Yeah.
paws,
Yeah.
or trying to find an area where they don't have to walk on the concrete if that's possible.
Right. No, that makes sense. And the booties, for people who are listening who maybe aren't as familiar with guide dogs for the blind, all of our dogs have been socialized to wear little rough wear booties on their paws to protect them in the wintertime from snow and ice and the stuff that they treat snow and ice with on escalators. And like you said, in these on these hot pavements. Yes, yes. And it's good for those of you who have pets out there. It's something it takes the dog a little while to get used to wearing the booties, and it can be a little bit of a challenge, but it is worth it not to have those burnt paws.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that our dogs are so acclimated to booties from a young age. It really helps with protecting their paws, like you said, in all different types of environments.
Mhm.
Another thing to think of is planning for the dog to have access to shade and rest areas. If we are feeling a little bit overheated, then the dog is definitely feeling overheated.
Okay.
And as part of the planning on a hot day, thinking about where we can find shade,
Mhm.
maybe find air conditioning, take a rest, have a sip of water for both of us,
Mhm.
for the
Yes,
dog
yes.
and the person
Yep.
is really important to do as part of the planning of the day.
That makes sense. I just have a kind of a quick question sort of off the top of my head. And I've heard this from other people too. Like my dogs have always loved to go lay in the sunshine in the backyard. And I always worry, will they know when they've been too hot? Or because it makes me nervous.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think that's a great question and something that I question a lot with my personal dog too when she's
Yeah.
sunbathing in the backyard.
Yes.
I think that they do, if they have access to shade and access to
Hmm.
water, they
Hmm.
are pretty good as long as they, are not a senior dog that has mobility concerns and or has any concerns about moving around. I think they're
Hmm.
pretty good at regulating. So as long as there is access to shade and water, they
Hmm.
will choose that when they want, when they need it. It's
Hmm.
it's never wrong to ask them to move if you're starting
Yes.
to worry. I definitely do that
I
sometimes.
do too. I'm like,
Um,
okay, time to go in.
yeah, but I think there is some degree of autonomy with them, and will seek shade and water when they need it if
When
they
they
are
need to.
a young, healthy dog. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. I've always wondered that.
I think a lot of my summertime adventures include water. And so that's hiking along lakes or rivers or going to
Yes.
the ocean and having fun in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always thinking about how do I keep my dog safe in the
Mm-hmm.
water?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things I think about are in freestanding water, so water that's not rapidly moving, there can be
Mm-hmm.
parasites there. A common one most
Yes.
people know is Giardia.
Yes. Not fun.
And yeah, not fun. Other things that can be in freestanding water would be like blue green algae. Certain algae blooms, particularly in the late summer when it's very hot,
Okay.
can be very dangerous to dogs.
Wow.
And then something particular in the Pacific Northwest that I learned about after school, actually,
Mhm.
is something called salmon poisoning.
Oh.
And there is a specific disease that it's actually an interesting life cycle of the disease, but the salmon can carry a parasite that then
Uh-huh.
has a bacteria that if a dog were to ingest can get them very ill.
Wow. I have not heard of that either. That's very scary.
Yeah. And so sometimes if there's salmon carcasses, or even if they drink water around a river or
Mhm.
something, that's something to watch out for because, dogs love that smell of of
Yes, they do.
of salmon. So that's more particular to our area up here, but
Mhm.
it's something that I think about too.
Mhm.
And to keep dogs safe in those situations, I think discouraging drinking from any water sources than what you offer them
Okay.
is
Yes.
how I really go about it. We don't want them drinking freestanding water that could have parasites or
Mhm.
algae, or even the ocean, can have salt water. High levels of salt can be dangerous to dogs as well.
Right, and make them super sick too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, what about you have a swimming pool at home and that kind of thing? I think especially with these retriever breeds, people think, "Oh, well, my it's a retriever. They love to swim. Or they're going to really want to go in the pool or, out on the boat." Are there things to think about when thinking about, sort of dogs swimming?
Yeah, I do think it is a natural thing for retrievers to want to swim
Mhm.
and to be able to swim, but not all of them enjoy it. Not all of
No.
them have ever done it before,
Right.
and that can be scary to them. Definitely, dog management around any type of water for
Mhm.
safety is important as well because they could potentially fall in the pool. We never want to put them in water that they're uncomfortable in and
Right.
expect that they can swim because that
Right.
might be a very stressful situation for them.
Right.
And so, kind of using our best judgment about how we can keep them away from water. And if they are going to go into water, make sure
Mhm.
it's a slow introduction with positive experiences and safety
Mhm.
mechanisms. They even make life jackets for dogs if they are
Yes.
going to go on a boat or on a kayak or anything
Mhm.
like that. Thinking through those things is important as well.
Yes, that makes sense. I mean, especially if it's something new to them, they might jump in the pool and then not know how to find the stairs to get out or, stuff like that. So that's good to know. And it's funny, none of my Labradors that I've had from guide dogs really want anything to do with water. They don't even like to walk through puddles. So it's kind of funny. But I do know other people who do have dogs that would just, you know, super drawn to the water. So being mindful about that makes total sense.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Especially like maybe with the heat, especially like how do you know when your dog has really had too much heat and we need to do something about it? We need to get them to do some sort of first aid for them or get them to a vet clinic.
I think the best advice that I can give people in these types of scenarios is to really trust yourself. You know your dog better than anybody else. And if you have any concerns that something is not right, then definitely reach out to a veterinarian, either your local veterinarian or one of us at Guide Dogs.
Mhm.
The VFA program has amazing nurses and doctors that are available to answer questions. And we're there to kind of sometimes ease your mind, but also other times to help make a plan if something
Right.
needs to happen. But definitely, as far as overheating, we want to try to catch it early. We want to pick
Okay.
up on the subtle signs of overheating and not wait for kind of the more dramatic signs. And so, subtle signs might be an increase in panting. And that's always hard for me because dogs pant. So,
Right.
it and that's normal and they should pant
Right.
when it's hot out. So
Right.
it's that's where it goes into your dog. You know what's excessive panting for your dog and you know what's
Mhm.
normal panting for your dog. So subtle panting. One thing with heat stress that I see often is actually vomiting and diarrhea.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I think that's a really important thing to note because potentially if I was out on a hike and my dog had diarrhea, I might think, oh, I gave her some cheese yesterday and her tummy is just upset,
Right. Right.
um,
Yes.
or she might have eaten something when we got
Mhm.
out of the car or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But it's actually one of the middle signs actually of heat stress. And so
Okay.
if you're noticing excessive panting, maybe some vomiting or diarrhea, those are
Mhm.
definitely signs of heat stress
Okay.
before you would see the wobbliness, the altered not wanting to get up type things.
Oh, yeah.
And they might slow down too early
Mhm,
on,
mhm, mhm.
just like people. When
Yeah.
I get hot, I
Yeah.
want to take a break. I want to
Yes.
slow
Yes.
down. I might look for shade
Mhm,
and things like that. And so noticing those things early are a good thing. And trying to think back to what our plan was for the day on a hot day. If they're
mhm,
starting to show those signs, how can we find shade? How can we give water? Can we
mhm,
go into air conditioning? Can we change the plan for the day
mhm.
to adapt early and not continue the stress of the heat for the dog for the day?
Right, right, that makes sense. I think having that plan from the beginning really, sort of a checklist, like, "Okay, do I have water? Do I have booties? How are we gonna get to this place? How are we gonna get back? What might be available if it gets too hot? Is there a mall we can go inside, or is there shade or trees in the areas where we can rest?" I think that, like you said, really helps so that you're not sort of finding yourself going, "Oh my gosh, my dog is sick. I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I, you know, I can't carry a 70-pound dog home," or whatever it is. Yeah, that is probably the best advice for all of us. So how about, is there any other hazards or dangers or things that you would like to kinda let folks know about before we get going with our summer?
A couple other things came to mind
Mm.
when you asked me to come on your podcast. And as I thought about what I do during the summers, so I also thought about toxic plants when
Oh,
out in the environment.
good, yes.
When out on hikes, there are
Mhm,
certain plants and mushrooms that can be
mm,
toxic. Um,
mhm.
and the probably more common in California
Mhm.
on their campus would be foxtails,
Oh, yes. They
which
are
are
a
those.
nightmare. Yes.
Yes, they're a nightmare. They're little barbed grass seeds that
Mhm,
love to get stuck in dog's fur, and then
mhm,
they kind of move in one direction and embed in toes and ears and nose
mhm,
and all the little crevices. And so always kind of being in the lookout for dense brush
mhm.
areas when we're outside and trying to avoid going in those areas that there could be
Right.
foxtails or brushing out the dog after going on a hike. Make sure we're getting all the
Mhm,
the little burrs and grass
mhm.
seeds that we can out.
Right, yes, I had a dog when I was growing up, a little cockapoo, and she would get them in her fur, then she would chew them out of her fur, and then they get stuck on her throat, so then we'd have to go have them extracted from her throat. So, yes,
It
grooming
is
them
not.
out. No, not fun for anybody.
No.
Yes.
So those are a big thing that I think of in summer, and
Mhm,
I think most dog handlers have is in the areas where foxtails are,
mhm,
they're aware of them. They maybe have
mhm,
had a few run-ins with them
mhm.
and know how to avoid them. Some other things I think about are fleas and ticks. That's their season.
Of course, yes.
They are around all year round in most
Mhm,
areas now,
mhm,
especially. And so we want to make sure we're giving our parasite prevention year round, but particularly in the summer is when we're going to see the highest rates of fleas and ticks. And they're not just gross, but they do carry disease too. And so staying on that prevention is really important to not
mhm.
have to deal with the headache of trying to clean up the environment when the fleas have come into your home and set
Oh
up
my
an
gosh, yeah.
infestation.
We're so lucky to live in a time when prevention is so good, and those of us who have guide dogs from Guide Dogs for the Blind, all of that is provided through our veterinary care program, which is great, but I can't imagine back in the old days when the dogs had to be flea dipped and all of that stuff was such a disaster.
I agree. I feel so fortunate to have all the products that we do to prevent these little bugs, and they really work. They're really
Mhm,
effective, and we see much less skin problems secondary to fleas and
mhm,
tick-borne diseases since
mm.
some of these newer products have come out. And so that's a great summer tip. And then the last thing I thought of was just barbecues, summer barbecues, and
Oh,
um, the
yes.
things that people have at barbecues that dogs love.
Uh-huh.
Um, so some examples. And again, I try to be positive. Like summer is fun and we all love to do these things. I know I'm here to talk about all the scary things, but things that I would be concerned about if my dog ate and I would want to get some veterinary advice would be corn cobs.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Dogs like to eat those whole sometimes, and they
Oh
can
my
be
gosh.
a big risk of obstruction.
Absolutely.
Skewers from like kebabs, if there's
Mhm.
meat on a skewer,
Chew
um,
on that.
yep,
Yes.
they like to get those. Certain fatty foods that can just cause tummy upset or
Mhm.
inflammation of the pancreas. So
Mhm.
trying to just keep table scraps away from dogs and the
Mhm.
dogs away from the trash. Grapes are a popular barbecue food, summer
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
And so if a dog ingests something like that where we're worried, that's where I would say just give your veterinarian a call and see
Mhm.
if it is a concern, and
Okay.
if anything needs to happen.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And I think, also just, I'm sort of picturing a barbecue in my mind now. Of course, I'm starving. But, there's always oftentimes, it's with lots of friends and family who may not know not to feed your dog stuff from the barbecue that they could get sick or so also I would just encourage people to educate the people that you're going to because the thing is you're going to know more probably than most pet owners about animals, especially guide dog users and puppy raisers. So advocate for yourself and your dog too, like, can we keep the trash out of the way and please don't feed my dog corn cobs. So just a thought.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice and something that I'm constantly doing too.
Yeah. Well, because these dogs are so cute, and they really have that look on their face like they haven't been fed in years. So, you have to, like, prepare people for that.
Right.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I think our audience is going to learn a lot. We're going to have a lot safer, happier, healthier summer from the advice that you've given us. Really appreciate you being here with us. So, thank you so much and have a fantastic summer.
Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate you having me, and I hope you have a great summer too.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Central Bark, a podcast from Guide Dogs for the Blind. If you enjoyed today's broadcast, please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Your reviews help more people find our podcast and learn about GDB's life-changing mission. We also love it when you leave us notes. As always, if you have an idea for an episode or a question you'd like us to answer on our podcast, please send us an email at podcast@guidedogs.com. We love hearing from you. So head over to guidedogs.com/podcasts, where you can find recordings of previous episodes along with show notes and transcripts.
This podcast was edited by Resonate Recordings.